All right, so we're jumping back now to the to 1994 when me and my gang are living in this loft on the Bowery and putting out our little magazine, and we're getting kind of a avuncular pat on the shoulder and a smile from the Midtown media establishment. In fact, we found that we could get all these outrageous meetings with high-ranking executives at publishing companies, and we were desperately hoping they would finance the magazine and help us out with some real dough. And we were being walked in to sit down with these extraordinary suits that we kind of had seen high up on the masthead of Condé Nast and K3 legendary titles. After a while, of course, we figured out that the reason they were having these meetings with us wasn't that they were interested in financing our thing, but that they were going to allow us to do our whole pitch and spiel and see if we had any insights to give them for free for the price of a cup of coffee on the mentalities and trends and habits of Generation X. And this sort of depressing, transparent, crass, marketing-driven Midtown Manhattan media mentality, which had such a hard-on for Generation X and this imaginary new demographic, was about to have an explosive rendezvous with destiny in the form of the dot-com boom. Now, originally in Manhattan, before the internet happened, before anybody in New York had the internet, there were these BBS services. They were bulletin board services. And we were involved in them from absolutely day one, because there was a great one started by this guy, Omar Wasow, who's now a cyber pundit and a guy who talks very intelligently about technology. He had started this thing called New York Online. Tim Nye, who now owns the Sunshine Theater, had started a BBS called Sonic Net. We knew another guy on Broadway who had started a BBS called The Transom. And so before there were even websites, we started publishing content online through these closed networks. And you would subscribe and get a modem, and you'd dial into the network, and you'd have a little community of people who could share information together. And these guys all thought, well, we better have some content. We got to have a front end for it. And so they were quite happy to make very not lucrative deals with us. But I think we sensed in some way, oh, new technology, I guess we should probably do this, and it's kind of fun to get your hands on it. Well, the rest is a particularly dreary and forgettable piece of Manhattan history. In the 6 years that followed, vast waterfalls of Wall Street money is being poured into these ridiculous little media companies, most of them run by people with no real experience in creating content, but who had managed to convince the money people in the suits that they should pour these vast amounts of venture capital. And so suddenly, Lower Manhattan, gigantic 10,000 square foot loft spaces are being rented out and wired with fiber optic cable and filled up with eager young staffers, and there's a job for everybody. And the dot-com boom is on, and everybody's doing a website. And the idea is that Lower Manhattan is going to feed the content that's going to feed this explosive expansion of the internet. And I guess it was fun in a way because there was money everywhere. I remember one time getting hired without any experience at all to be a GUI guy, a graphical user interface consultant, because I had done some graphic design work in conjunction with the magazine. And they paid me $2,500 a day to get on the phone with a client in Chicago and talk about the design of their car-selling online interface. And everybody was reaping these profits. And it was a really ridiculous moment. And the dot-com bubble spawned this very kind of lame and depressing cultural elite of people who would drive around in town cars and eat sushi and have big, not very fun parties where they would unveil the next big thing. And I got a job at some point during this writing a column for the Silicon Alley Reporter, which was a magazine that Jason Calcanis founded that's still around in a different form. And I convinced Jason to give me a monthly column, a page called The Grouchy Luddite. Because I already knew that this whole dot-com thing was going to be a beautifully predictable apocalyptic fall of Rome bubble that would expand until it got to huge, glistening, absurd proportions and then fizzle and pop and burn out. And the whole thing was just so eminently ripe for satire. I wish that we'd gotten more mileage out of it. But we really had a lot of fun making fun of this new alleged cultural elite. And, I mean, you know, certainly some things of substance came out of this whole era. But it was also, I think the dot-com moment in New York was one of the first intimations that that Manhattan really was changing.